knew what he was doing. There we go.
He told me, look, no more playing, no more playing.
I thought it was good. Look at me.
Hey, Dylan, did it hurt your back?
That's good stuff.
Helicopter. You know what? We had a stage across the street. We were supposed to like do time, like every 5 minutes when it was
Yeah.
like out the county, and I was in the stage. The walk off. I'm like, that's probably thinking.
In about 4 or 5 minutes, we're waiting on some folks to get back from the hospital and we'll be ready to go. But everything clicked and went very well. So we'll talk about that. The way that we're going to do this is we're going to kind of go in sequence with things. We're going to start off, with how the alarm came in and talk about communications, and we'll go through step by step. We have a lot of people have an opportunity to talk. Really, everybody here will have an opportunity to talk and say something. What I would encourage you to do, because we've only got about half an hour until we're ready for lunch, is try to keep your comments down like to a minute or two, and then we can move on and let everybody get some time in. So, please help me out with that. And so, with that, we'll get started a little bit. So, we had, as you heard when we talked this morning, we had an incident that was a mass casualty incident. We had a bus struck out there. As you saw very quickly with our gang activity going on, you had somebody get off the bus and shoot somebody in one of the cars, and then run into the schoolroom. Okay? Good happen. Good happen. And you saw very quickly that there was concern on the part of the responders. Hey, we want to make sure that the scene is safe before we, commit a lot of other units in there. So very quickly, law enforcement moved up in, tried to secure up in the classroom to make our scene safe so that the EMS units could come in. Okay, so the first thing we did was we had a number of people calling into the comm center with this alarm. Some of the kids on the bus had cell phones. People who were in traffic did. Later on, when in this day and age we live in with tweets, we have people across the state of Florida calling into that comm center saying, "Hey, my daughter just tweeted me that dude's involved in an accident. Where is she? What's happening?" So we tried to inundate the comm center a little bit. So let's start with that. Did I see Kathy in here?
Right here.
Kathy, you want to make comments on how some of that? You and Lisa kind of talk about the comm center portion.
Okay. All right. There was 3 of us on multiple calls. The callers that called in, they did an excellent job for the training and stuff because they were totally upset. I really enjoyed being able to talk to them. However, they kept telling me it was an exercise because of the questions I was asking, and I was aware of that. But they did a good job. It really helped us as far as focusing on the type of emergency that it was. I think that communications did a pretty good job considering what we had to work with, the type of training on. But the kids, and this is for real. I mean, this could actually happen to us. I just thought, I hope we get to see some more of them.
Okay, good. Good news.
Communications did a great job. The calls kept coming in, different types of calls, parents, media, those kinds of things, and they handled them very well.
And like we mentioned in this morning session, we realized, of course, if it's a real thing, that the calls aren't going to stop. At some point we kind of stopped because we were getting involved in the exercise. But as time goes on, a lot of media calls will start coming in, and it'll be continuous. And then, as we'll find out, as we'll talk about here in just a minute, we had some actual calls going on out in the area. I don't know whether Washington County had any going on, but adjacent counties had something that we'll talk about. Okay, good. So then, once the units got dispatched, we had what will traditionally happen is law enforcement out first on the scene. So with the school resource officer program, which I think is excellent, we had somebody on the scene very quickly. So let's go to the first arriving law enforcement officer. Was that Bob?
That was Daryl.
Daryl. What'd you see, Daryl? What'd you see when you arrived on the scene? What action did you take?
I don't know. I guess it was a little confusing for me because you had the accident that you wanted to deal with, but then when I arrived, I saw the guy with the gun run across the campus and stuff. I would have done a few things a little different, but I guess that with training, they wanted us to secure the scene at the bus accident first. I guess in my head, I knew that, you know, I have another SRO that's right across over here, that he's gonna be here, and he can secure that, and I go in and, you know, kind of assess what's going on over there and wait for the arriving, the other arriving units to come. So, it was different, it challenged me, I will say that.
You're trying to determine, is my best option to throw some water on that fire to stop it for the person, so we can get in there and rescue the person? Or do I rescue the person and let the house burn and get out, that I may put my people in danger? You got the same on the law enforcement side. You know, his natural instinct go after that bad guy, but is that the best thing to do when you've got all kinds of injured people laying out here that may be impacted by that gunman? So, you know, hard decisions that really have to be made there. Okay? All right, then we had second in unit came in. Who was that?
That was me.
Okay.
When I arrived, Officer White was checking on the injured. I took cover by the bus because he advised there was an active shooter that had run into the building, and I advised control of that. When Deputy Jenkins arrived, he went towards Building 600, and I followed Deputy Jenkins at that time. And then we went in and looked for the shooter.
Okay. And you know what these guys are going through, all the training they go through, you realize that since Columbine, some of the thinking has changed on all of this. You know, back when you had Columbine, people kind of stayed back. You wait till you got your forces there. You know, a lot of times you get SWAT team in, get everything in place because it gives you a lot of firepower. They realize, you know, a lot of students, just like up at Virginia Tech, a lot of students can die in that interim. So these, you know, brave guys, they're going in. You get two on the scene, they're going in, going after that perpetrator to stop that from happening. So, you know, very tough job that they have. Okay, so then they took off and went up there. The folks that were dispatched as far as coming to the scene, of course, were asking, hey, is the scene safe? Because they don't want to put a lot of rescue people into that scene right away, have them get taken out, and then they become part of the problem instead of part of the solution. So they're making sure that scene was safe. We finally got a clearance on that, and units got dispatched and were coming in. So I'm going to come back to law enforcement in just a minute when we talk about the operations inside the school. But let me go now to EMS. EMS starts rolling in on the scene. Who's on my first EMS unit? Okay.
There was a lot of time that we were waiting on the radio. You could hear that it was an accident. Got there. Everybody walking around. We stood up. Got outside the bus. I thought it went pretty smooth. So we didn't find the patients and trying to move the walking unit away from the bus. I thought it went really good. I thought it went really smooth. No problem.
We want to try to get into that scene as quickly as possible. What happens, and I'm sorry, and help out, is that there's a tendency to drive units right up to the scene if you get close. And what we got to do is got to kind of go against that urge to stay back a little bit and walk up to not create that congestion there. Because what we ended up with several units. If we were on a highway like we were simulating, that highway would have been blocked, and you're wanting to bring ambulance units in to get folks out, but you got, all kinds of emergency vehicles just here and there. So it's one of the things you need to do is have that thought in the back of your mind, okay, who else has got to come in here? What kind of space do we need to leave here for the other responders? Okay, so the first in unit arrived, then we started getting some command folks on the scene, and I don't know, Joey, is that you or Randy? Okay, go ahead, Randy.
Well, when I arrived on scene, I did a good 360 of the scene. I met up with Sean, who was on the initial unit that went in. He had already given a overview of the scene to communication center. We told him we had a mass casualty incident. He'd already let them know we needed some extra units, we needed some helicopters, and he established small civil command. He gave me a
Everybody notice where, that command post was set up? And I wish I had a picture on the slide up there. It wasn't right on top of the scene. It was back kind of behind the scene, away from the fence, a little bit removed. That allowed him a great opportunity to see up there what's going on, that he used his, officers up there, medical officer, to kind of be his eyes and ears right close. He's able to view the whole scene and see what's going on. So I thought it was an excellent, location for command. Okay, so we've got all these patients laying on the ground. We know that you just can't pick one and take them because they may not be that badly injured, so we had to go through some triage. So, Julie, you want to talk about that a little bit?
I have triage treatment. You want me to do it all together?
Yeah, go ahead. I get you and the doc to comment on both of those.
In quick initial triage, using START, Jump Start worked out well. You use the ribbons. Just one suggestion, when you're doing the ribbons, just everybody tie them in the same place. So some of them were tied way up here. The shirt went over a couple of them. So everybody just tie them onto the wrist. That way we all know where we're looking for. I saw some really good triaging. I noticed the artificialities with the cards, but overall it looked really well. Good prioritization of moving the people off, so that was good. I did have a little question about the yellow, kind of a holding area, because we had the treatment area kind of down, I'll say the hill a little bit, and then we had this one yellow area where we even put a tarp over, which was nice to keep some shade for them, but maybe the treatment area could have been a little bit closer, and then we wouldn't have had this yellow holding area. So I was just a little bit confused about that. Used the tags in the treatment area, so that was good. The contaminated strip was removed. Excellent, all except for one, but overall, the bottoms were taken off. Nobody filled them out though, so try and get at least a little bit of information on those tags. So that will help with the people that are coming in to transport. It's not you that is transporting, that whatever information or treatment that you already did can be logged on to that treatment card, on the triage card. The officers had the proper vests on, perfect. And I know you guys all know each other, but when you have mutual aid coming in, they might not know you. So if you go, hey, go see John, he's the treatment officer, and they don't know who John is, the vests really work out well. You had the tarps out there, so that was good. Officers to use the paperwork. We even talked about that, how maybe one doesn't get all the names, but the paperwork works together so you can cross-reference. So that worked out well with the hospital capability. I saw the officers were updating command periodically, so that went really well. And afterwards, we talked, about the count. We lost like 2 people. That usually happens right at the beginning if they get off the scene so quick. So I saw some pretty good tracking of patients.
Good. Doc?
Yeah, no, overall, real good. I think I like when the guys, the arriving EMS unit did a good scene size up. I think they recognized all the critical red patients immediately. They knew who was sick. One thing I think, once that scene size up was achieved, I think there was maybe a little lapse in then kind of packaging those reds and maybe getting those guys ready for treatment and transport. I think you guys identified them immediately right away, but then I think either other things were going on and they kind of stayed by the car and weren't really attended to right away. And again, these are the people that are really on the edge and can decompensate. You're fortunate in this area to be very air asset rich. I know the term was call for helicopters, but you have 4 helicopters, 4 civilian EMS helicopters, and you have the military asset as well. So in a situation like this where all these reds, or probably a majority of these reds and maybe even some yellows, are going to end up in a trauma center a good distance away, this is a perfect situation to be bringing in a lot of air assets early on. Because, obviously for a ground unit to go to Bay or something, you're taking them out of service for a significant period of time. So go ahead, especially once you knew you had 4 reds, you knew at least you had 4, so you probably should be calling that corresponding number of air assets if they're available. But otherwise, I think it moved pretty well from there.